Some businesses, the foundations can be built over a matter of months and years, like the fintech, where you don't have any, in an operational business like ours, where you are actually moving a cargo for a client from A to B, right? It's a very operational in nature as much as technology is there, and you are dealing in a very, it's not on an app you can do everything. It's not. We can grow to 5-10% market share. What do we need to do? We need to execute well in terms of getting more demand on our platform and supply matching. That's how so execution is this. The team technology is done. It's the same number of people who need, maybe you need some more additional people when the volume goes up. But technology is done. We cannot change the technology overnight to take it to another level, right? अगर हम इंडिया में होते ना अभी तक, तो अभी तक हम मल्टी को डेकाकॉन या क्या बोलते हैं ना, डेकाकॉन होते. India का valuation has shoot off the roof because too many people trying to chase successful businesses.
Welcome guys, we are in Dubai. It is a show that brings ordinary Indians to you who've done extraordinary work. They are people just like you and me. They just strive for more, they worked harder, and most importantly, they made the right career choices. The one question that we ask everybody at AltUni Inside IIM is this: do you invest in yourself enough?
We are a marketplace, we are an aggregator of demand and supply focused on full truckload business, which is moving cargo. Just that is the key thing, which is moving trucks. How do you move cargo? You move in trucks, right? Some moves in kind of 3-ton trucks, which are intercity. You will see, you want to move your houses. How do you move houses? You need a truck to come and pack your stuff and this. We don't do that. We do that in UAE just as a B2C business, but that is B2C, where you are the C and we're kind of trying to. But B2B business is I have a cargo to move from my factory, from my warehouse to point A to B. I have to deliver that. This industry has been there since ages, right? Just the mode of transport would have changed from earlier from rail, but trucking has been there for a while. But this has not been disrupted by any technology. It has been run in a very traditional way of doing business. So what we bring into is by using our technology, one, we don't own any assets. We are like a Uber where they don't own the assets. It is owned by the truck drivers. They themselves are owning the trucks. We come into the picture by bringing our technology. We bring both the demand who needs a truck to send their cargo from point A to B, someone who needs a job to utilize their truck effectively. We bring the platform to them to come on the same platform together, create efficiencies. You mentioned about reducing time, and so all of these are kind of what do you say, result of what we do.
When TruKKer was started in India, there was, there's a good idea, there's execution, and then there is differentiation or value creation. Right? Now, you realize very quickly what you're doing, somebody else is doing and is miles ahead of you because has raised investment, has built a team, has had infrastructure built up, so on and so forth. So how do you solve that problem? Either you beat him in a very strong technology product
or execution,
which is difficult because there's a limited scope of tech,
but that is
right?
also doable. That
it
is also doable.
That's one
but
way.
Then that's one way of thinking that I can compete.
Is to pivot.
Exactly, is to pivot and look at it. Is there any other market I can do it? And for Gaurav and Pradeep, that option was there. When you look at Indian startup ecosystem overall, I won't think anyone will think, okay, let me leave my home country where I am kind of thing and start rolling my product in the UAE and start from there. We started as a company, or at least not we, Gaurav and Pradeep started TruKKer in India, but they wound this up and say, okay, this is an area where we should focus. And since then, so we started in UAE in 2016. Since that, the business has now grown to 9 operating countries. We have a very large presence in India in terms of our engineering and shared services. So that's, if you add that geography, we are 10. In 9 countries, we are in the GCC primarily. We started from UAE, expanded into Saudi, then went into Egypt. And since over the last 24 months, we have branched out into additional countries like Oman, Bahrain, Jordan, Poland, and Kazakhstan. So we are kind of 9 countries. So you can think about why we are covering so many things, again, geographies, is partly because it's a network business. When you think about it, it's as a network. When you are in a business of moving cargo, you have to move where your cargo is moving. Your clients are moving cargo. So if you have to provide the service, you have to continue doing it where the clients are moving it. So our clients were moving cargo all this region.
Now, for all of you guys, think what is the value add that TruKKer is doing, right? Technology is just one piece of information which is very critical, which is the foundation of what TruKKer does, but what essentially is the problem that we are solving. Now, before TruKKer, it's not that TruKKer invented trucks, right? Trucks were there, the drivers were there, the cargo was moving. So what do we do? What do we essentially do which makes TruKKer present in 9 countries, working with so many clients and so on and so forth? So there were 2 fundamental problems that we are solving, right? One on the demand side and the second on the supply side. What is the demand? The demand is a client that requires trucks. A Unilever, a steel plant has 30 trucks to be sent from point A to B, from Dubai to Riyadh, for example, right? And the supply side is the driver, right, or the transporter who would fetch. So from a demand side, there were 2 options for the clients before TruKKer. Either to go with a very premium DHL or an Aramax or any of the premium players, and obviously with their overheads, with their premium service, they're going to charge you a buck, right? Or they can go with a very traditional transporter who doesn't know, right? Who will dress in a kurta pajama, come and sit you, doesn't know how to invoice you, and these clients would typically pay after 30 days or 60 days. Now, how do you solve that problem? This guy, the poor guy, doesn't have the working capital. All of you know what is working capital, right? So would not have this much money in his pocket to pay his drivers for 30 days and then invoice the client and then wait for his money to come back. On the supply side, again, this was the first problem. Now, how would the supplier, the kurta pajama guy, solve this problem? The kurta pajama guy would rely on a broker who would abuse him in a way that he would say that, okay, Dubai to Riyadh is 2,000 dirhams. Everything is verbal, right? Once I go and visit his office, he'd say, no money today, come tomorrow. Oh, here is 1800, 200 baad mein kar lenge, we'll settle it later. Oh, and when he goes to Riyadh, he doesn't know how to, either he comes back empty because he doesn't have the network. How do I, and it's an asset, right? Think about it. If you're going from, in Bombay, if you're going from Juhu to Nariman Point, you need to get a taxi. The taxi driver, if he comes back empty from Nariman Point to Juhu again, he incurs a loss. So he has to have someone who's willing to pay the back load as well. So these guys were, obviously had a big problem finding these loads. So this is where TruKKer comes in. On the demand side, we tell these clients that we will aggregate all these small kurta pajama guys, right? Create a big company, create a big consortium of trucks, and give you a service which is technology first. We'll have the instant pricing. We'll have immediate responses. You can check the status of your truck. You can track where your cargo is. All the technology, element of the trucking. And on the supply side, we assure this kurta pajama guy that whenever you work with TruKKer, you will get paid immediately. You don't have to wait. You don't have to negotiate. This is a flat price. As soon as you complete your trip, submit your proof of delivery. We would have those 40,000 trucks sitting in a warehouse and paying driver salaries. Now, if a client, as Amit is saying, requests 10 trucks today, okay, or 50 trucks tomorrow, great, right? My trucks get busy, but suddenly the clients do not require it. There's a production line shut off and things happen, right? Or there's a maintenance in the plant. There's COVID. There's anything.
This is why historically were inefficiencies in the system. I think with the efficiencies, because of this thing, because of our aggregation, we are reducing all these inefficiencies from the system, get better utilization of the assets. Because of these things, if I have 40, even 400 trucks in my warehouse, or if someday only I get 100 loads, someday I get 300, other days I get 400, I'm happy, but it is not consistent. So it means the rest of the assets are getting underutilized. When you underutilize an asset, it means you're leaving something on the market. And again, the counterparty risk is where you they don't have the money to fund their money, like how I'm going to give 60-day credit. Who is going to fund me for 60 days? So no one will fund that. So these are all the problem statements where this industry is playing. This is not something which is specific where trucker has identified this, our trucker has identified this issue, said this is an industry-wide problem. How do we solve with our solutions is kind of here, right? By giving instant price and booking. As almost like an Uber, but yes, obviously we don't book like, okay, book me a Uber 10 minutes later outside my house. It is an Uber or a truck which will show up in my factory within 4 hours to 24 hours, depending on when you need it. Elasticity, which we talked about. You can get 10 trucks today, you can talk about 100 trucks, whatever you need, and you don't need to commit. The good thing is if you have your own trucks, there is a fixed cost, there is a fixed salary, fixed everything. But you don't need to do, you outsource your need of trucking to a platform and where we can deliver whatever they need. By doing so many transactions, I think the earlier slide we mentioned, we have done over close to 500,000 transactions. What does that transactions tell you? We have now a rich database of over 500 transactions of cargo moving in this space, which means that you can create, or we have a database of such a rich database, you can do multiple things. This is where our efficiencies, where how we can use that data to create efficiencies in the system. So in India, how payments are done has changed. Earlier, before Paytms of this world came, how do you think the drivers would have been dealing with this? What was the mode of cash, right? Paytm changed that. Even if you try to pay someone in cash, they will say, can you do a Paytm to me, right? I have a problem. When my wallet doesn't work in India, Paytm, they always tell me, give me a Paytm and I have to carry cash, giving them cash. That's another thing. In this part of the world, in that persona, which is demographics, the issue is still the same. They are dealing in cash, or they were dealing in cash before TruKKer came in. We dealt with them in cash for a long time. But then what we have done, we realized there is another problem we need to solve. We can solve all of these industry problems, but then we need to also solve payments, which is another pain point, because the more we are growing as a bigger, it is our friction for us to also keep handling cash every day with these drivers. So we created our own wallet. Think this is a Moxie platform. This is a platform again. It's a wallet where we can be paid in that wallet and they can spend from that wallet. Just think about it as a Paytm for logistics industry.
How did you get them to know this platform exists and using technology, right? How was that possible?
It took a lot of hard work.
Yeah,
It took a lot of hard work. We had to get our hands dirty. I mean, these things, these offices and everything came later. All of us were on the field, educating these guys, convincing these guys. I sometimes still do it, by the way, right? And that's where, so I think one key learning for all of you guys is that if you're starting a business or if you're wanting to start a business, these things should come later. You should be able to do what you are expecting from your employee the best, right? If you should know what you expect, and that is how you're able to set goals, educate. If we would have just run this sitting in a fancy office, probably the result would have been. And this again, Gaurav, who's our CEO and founder, he does it, I do it, and we try to set this as an
I don't
example.
do that much on field, and that's what I keep up complaining. But no, but this is actually is right. See, technology, you can build the best of technologies, but in order to implement, you have to be on ground.
So my question is, did you really start with so many problems back to when you actually started, or these problems and solutions evolved? That's question number one.
Yeah.
The next one is, how tempting is it to probably sway away from the problem? Because as you go deeper into the problem, you may find new problems. So as founders, as the people who are running the business, how tempting has it been that let me not solve that problem because this is my core area?
See, this problem statement, by the way, is not unique to the region. You go in India, you will find the same problem. These are universal. Even you will be surprised, you go in US and Europe, which we call as the most advanced economies, they have exactly the same thing. Not a single one you will
The
get.
percentage might be, some problems
Yeah.
might be 10% high, some will be low, but
everyone you will
fundamentally-
go and kind of talk to an investor, like if you go and say Convoy, which is our peer in the US, when they will talk about the problem statements they are solving, you will find exactly the same. It's just the degree and magnitude may be different, as Anish said. So that is very, very universal. Now to your second question, how we prioritize, maybe when we start and we say, okay, we will solve everything on day one, then maybe Baba, band karke business chale jao. So we are taking too much to kind of, that is a perfect product, which I was telling you. You have to start with saying, I will give you an MVP, kind of a minimum product which will sell. You need to create the network, which is your to the point. Which first important is to create the network. People rely on your service. That is it a reliable service? How many apps are there in India in wallets? There are hundreds of apps are coming. Why only 2 or 3 apps kind of have the lion's share? Because they are reliable. They are one who can, you have created enough people on that platform. So that is something which is why you have to at times compromise. Day one, do you say I create about an interface which has to be the best when the guys don't even know how to use a app? What is the point of creating that? So you can maybe say, okay, let's work on it over the years. But so that and your third point around digital adaptation, now I think we are solving both. We are solving still the problem because we still, market is so huge, the TAM is so big that we don't claim that we have more than 1% market share. We have even less than that. So that is the level of fragmentation in the whole market. And by the way, we are the biggest. Just think about it. We are the biggest in the region, but our market share is, we can't even say 1% of the overall available market.
And the second biggest is also nowhere close.
Nowhere,
right?
second biggest is probably 1/10 of where we are. So earlier, the first thing was to put a product which is kind of works at the done. Then you need to continuously improve it. Then you need a product guy manager who can think through more as a problem statement. So we have kind of obviously, then you need the data guys. Now you are sitting on so much data. How can you do data analytics, right? So that's rolls continuously. When you start becoming so big, then your website becomes slow and your app becomes slow. How do you optimize that? That is when you guys start bringing in guys. I don't know what is the terminology called, guys who come and solve for that.
Yeah, system architects.
System architects and all
so
of that.
it's a 0 to 1, 1 to 10 kind of a problem, right? Everybody, I mean, all of us knew 0 to 1. I mean, this is the basic stuff that we require, and those were done by generalists. Then we started getting in the subject matter experts. Okay, who's the best guy who did Uber's app, right? Let's get him in. Who's the best guy who did the backend infrastructure of Ola, right? Let's get him in, and so on and so
and
forth.
the UI UX kind of, again, when you start with the initial one, your UI UX makes the last thing. Is the first thing is the feature works or not, and then you start evolving over the time. I would like to kind of take you through the journey and then very quickly go through the rest of the slides so that we can open up for more questions. So I think, as I said, started as a home moving company in 2016. Over the years, we have obviously launched in many geographies, getting into Saudi Arabia in 2019. So you don't see it. The first journey from here to here is almost 2.5 years. Going from UAE to first country outside is in Saudi. But then you see getting into Egypt, which again, and then the acceleration starts. So this is what also one of the learnings for anyone who is doing a business or in a startup, that the first few years or
the foundational years,
the foundation years are very, very important. Some businesses, the foundations can be built over a matter of months and years, like the fintech, where you don't have in an operational business like ours, where you are actually moving a cargo for a client from A to B, right? It's a very operational in nature as much as technology is there, and you are dealing in a it's not on an app you can do everything. It's not. All throughout the period, we have been successfully be able to raise a lot of capital, equity and debt, to solve debt because of working capital needs, and raise equity financing, which are backed by kind of very strong institutional investors from the region. So they are all on our cap table. So they have supported us throughout our journey, and kind of today where we are in the strongest position from a balance sheet perspective as well, from an equity perspective. You know UAE, you are comfortable, you know everything. You can go around and go into a yard, pick up a driver, you can pick up a client. But you need to get more people like you when you go in a new country. You can't be doing the same thing. You can create the rule book, you create the technology, but then you need people. It's also a people's business. You need the right people. So I think ask Anish how many times he in Saudi has gone into the fields and done that but every time it is not Gaurav, right? It is Gaurav started to show that how it can be done. Then everyone else, like-minded people, will come and execute on the same way.
So I think the answer to that is that you have to build a very strong, founding team. That's one. And second is not only that, your next tier of people, the senior team, has to be extremely strong, and they do not run this like it is their job. They run it like it is their company. So the founder's mindset is what we call as a very traditional value that we impart in TruKKer, that everybody feels like owner in the organization, right? We do two pricing models for our clients. The first pricing model is a consistent contractual pricing. Let's say we fix a price for the next 6 months, 1 year. Again, we are not idiots to sign up something which we do not foresee, and that is where the idea of our data, our you know our algorithms to predict those pricings come in, and if we go into a contractual model, the risk is ours and the reward is also ours. There will be times where I'm selling something for 100 and buying for 70, right, and I make a 30% margin, and there will be times where I've fixed 100, I might have to buy something for 105, which rarely happens, but yes, that is the downside of a fixed contractual, fixed model. There is another model that TruKKer offers that, hey, Mr. Client, you don't know how the market is going to turn around, so we don't want you to be at a disadvantage if the buying is 70. The client knows, right, the buying is 70, still he has to honor the contract. So we give them the flexibility that we discuss these prices every week, and that is where what Amit was mentioning, right, the instant pricing. So they are able to click that, okay, I need a Dubai to Riyadh rate. Immediately the platform is going to tell you that now today is 1800, yesterday it might be 2100, and there's a there's a buying opportunity from our side. So at the end of the day, if the clients want it, we can help facilitate, but we'll not force them into something, because at the end of the day we are a platform, we're not a transporter.
And actually, if you think about the sustainability, we are already solving in this transaction. We are solving the empty miles. We are already better utilization. We are solving that carbon emissions because we are reducing the backhauls empty miles. So we are already solving it. Yes, it will get much better because then there will be no fuel usage. Then our carbon footprint will even go down further. But we can't change the market, or it has to be by the market forces per se.
Yeah, and the IPO also we have
Sorry?
coming up IPO.
Okay, so you have been reading the article. No, good that at least when
Let
people come prepared.
Amit answer the $1 million question of the IPO.
So on the first question around growth strategy, we have got to a very wide, strong network, which we have invested a lot over the last few years. Is a question we need to now scale bigger on the same network. It is not, we don't need to venture out and open in 5 new countries. If we are in UAE, we are at a 1% market share. Just hypothetical, let's stay with that. We can grow to 5-10% market share. What do we need to do? We need to execute well in terms of getting more demand on our platform and supply matching. That's how so execution is this. The team technology is done. It's the same number of people who need, maybe you need some more additional people when the volume goes up. But technology is done. We cannot change the technology overnight to take it to another level, right? So that will remain. So that investment is gone into the business. The scalability of that is coming from there because we are asset light. Our technology is already proven. Our people have delivered in terms of execution. So it's just a matter of doing more with the same number of people and technology. So that is the key strategy from an execution.
From
obviously,
a layman perspective,
yeah.
Let me just answer that. You would not find TruKKer open up a lot of geographies. In the last 2 years, we've expanded, what they teach in B schools, the horizontal expansion and the vertical expansion. So less, I mean, I will not say no, right? There's a bunch of them are planned, but less, but more consolidation in the ones that we've already started versus, us venturing into 10 new geographies, let's say.
अगर हम इंडिया में होते ना अभी तक, तो अभी तक हम मल्टी को डेकाकॉन या क्या बोलते हैं ना, डेकाकॉन होते. India का valuation has shoot off the roof because too many people trying to chase successful businesses. In this part of the world, there is still that Middle East discount होता है, तो थोड़ा हम अभी उसमें, we are okay. We are more focused on execution, delivering rather than on valuation.
Thank you. Best of luck. Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you.